Hey there, this is going to be a live Facebook video for any kind of personal finance questions. I talk a lot about business, starting a business, being an entrepreneur, self-employed, motivational things, things like that, all which hopefully ultimately lead you to having more money in your bank account. But if you don't make smart choices with that, then it's harder to keep it there. So the idea of personal finance is not only to have money, but to keep it and spend it in a wise fashion. So this is really all over the board. There are so many aspects to personal finance. So if anybody wants to ever chime in with any particular question, we can. I'll just kind of go on for a little while. Especially when you first start these, as Facebook sends out 10,000 notifications all over the place. So personal finance, how you run your financial things. To start with the first most important thing with all personal finance, in my opinion, the most important thing, pay yourself first. What does this mean? Pay yourself first. So when you get a paycheck, when you get your account, when you get your check-in, your payment, you want to set some aside and always save first. Some people make the huge mistake of saving whatever is left versus saving what is first. So you always want to take that cut out first, and I honestly recommend saving 25% of your income. Sounds like a lot, 25% of net. It is a lot, but that's what it takes to be able to insulate yourself against the unknowns and prepare for the future and not work through 85 years old. So whenever you get your paycheck in, you want to pay yourself first. That is by far the most important thing. Pay yourself first, 25%. You also want to invest in things like that. Investing is a whole another topic. There's so many things with money. Probably the second most important thing. So first, pay yourself first. Second most important thing, deciding realistically, truthfully between needs and wants. Many people have a hard time with that because, and in this country, we lead a pretty fluffy lifestyle compared to a lot of countries around the world. You tell somebody starving in the former Soviet Union, in Russia, or somewhere in Africa, and they're going to say, oh, I'm not going to give up my smartphone. Something like that. So you really have to distinguish between needs and wants, because sometimes when you need to cut corners, you need to really analyze what the difference actually is between a need and a want. Do you need a phone? Yes. Do you need a smartphone with a $100 a month or a $50 a month data plan? Probably not. Do you need television? Maybe. Do you need some big fat cable or satellite plan for that? Probably not. So it's a lot of decisions like that you have to make along the way, is really truthfully deciding what is a need versus a want. What is something you actually need to survive? Food, clothing, shelter, those you need. A lot of stuff past that is really going to be a want. Going out to eat is nice, but you can easily spend $30, $40, $50 going out to eat, where you can make it at home yourself for oftentimes a whole lot less, or making a smarter option when you go out to eat, one versus another, avoiding drinks, getting water instead, lots of things like that. That's the other thing which you have to learn to prioritize. It's a huge part of personal finance as well, prioritizing. Many people like to live in the moment, and that's perfectly well. You're welcome to live that lifestyle. But the drawback of living all in the moment is life has a way of throwing you curveballs here and there. Somebody breaks a leg, your car breaks down, your fridge breaks, you end up in a sinkhole and on the news. These things happen in real life. And I'm not going to say money makes you happy, because it doesn't. But money gives you security. It gives you an insulation against the unknown. That's the way I always think about it. If you're going to be outside when it's cold, it's much better to have a big, huge coat on versus standing out there naked. It's insulation against the unknowns. The more money you have, the more freedom you have, the more insulation. And that's something else to think about. What else we got in personal finance? Investing, that's too big of a topic to touch on something like this. So, personal finance, pay yourself first out of your check. You also want to make decisions, honest, truthful decisions to yourself. What is a need versus what is a want? Because you can almost always cut expenses when you really need to. People think they cut expenses, but they really don't have any idea that they can cut them so much farther and further than they actually are. So you always watch your expenses. That counts for business, it counts for life, because you can blow so much money on stupid things, and stupid things you don't even need. And that money, because stock market general rule will, if you invest in like an ETF, something like that, will double every 7 years. Someone like me, fairly young in my mind, my daughter says I'm really old. I'm almost 34, and so something that say costs $1,000 now, that's $2,000 in 7 years. That's $4,000 in 14 years, and it just keeps on going down that path. So one of the big key also to remember when it comes to personal finances, delaying gratification. It's great to have very nice things now, but sometimes you do that and you cut yourself short for what you might need in the future. It's a lot more beneficial, long-term financial success growth, to cut corners for a long time, and then you'll have so much you won't even know what to do with it a few years down the road. So you really need to delay the gratification of things. One thing that's important too, talking about insulating against unknowns in life, an emergency fund, you want to have something in cash or cash alternative. And when I say cash, something that you can get out without penalty within a few days, whether that's a bank, a money market, some sort of possible investment thing, but you don't want to be dealing with commissions and things like that, because those are geared towards longer term things. I would say a year worth of living expenses in some sort of emergency fund. That's probably just like a checking account almost for that. And you want to have this because life throws unknowns and curveballs at you. And that's going to need to be one of your top priorities, is building that emergency fund, that initial cushion. Because sometimes you have to be able to pull things, you get this weird, crazy dentist bill, this hospital bill. Healthcare is a whole nother crazy ball of wax, because healthcare is so jacked up in this country. Why do things cost so much when they cost so much less in other parts of the world? Who knows? A single-payer healthcare system really should be like every other industrialized country in the world. That's an opinion rant there. But personal finance, extremely important to everyone, because I talk about business all the time. Business, making money, watching your expenses, blah, 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 growing things, margins, etc., which gets money in your pocket. Personal finance is what you do after you have it in your pocket. Avoid depreciating assets. The worst one, in my opinion, cars. Cars are, everyone likes cars, let's be honest. They all want ultra nice sports cars, fancy cars, things like that. But the reality of cars is that if you think about it objectively, and that's a big key to life, thinking about things objectively, big picture. A car, every day you own it, for 99.9% of cars, but every car is worth less the next day than it was that day. You buy a new car, you drive it off the lot, it's worth 20% less. So you spend $10,000 for easy math on a new car, you drive it off the lot, now it's worth $8,000. You lost $2,000 when it hit the curb over going out the parking lot. And they're going to depreciate every year. They're worth less every day than the day before. So, you know, it's depreciating. You have to pay gas to drive it. You have to pay insurance to drive it. If you get in an accident, raise your insurance. Another horrible fleecing of America. But, so yeah, as you can tell, and you're going to have maintenance. Things are going to break on it and need maintenance from time to time, hopefully a long time in between. So you have an asset which is worth less every day than it was the day before. You have to pay to use it, you have to pay to upkeep it, and you have to pay for insurance on it. So be careful with vehicles. They are a huge, huge money pit. And oftentimes they're just as a status symbol, so you can show off someone else, oh, they have a nice car, which is great to do if you really have enough money to make that happen. So be very careful with your vehicle you get. Also, houses. Now, they don't depreciate as much. There's conflicting math sometimes based on how you mold the information onto, oh, houses always go up. And in general, it's true, the median home price and things like that, which is true. But they also, those statistics leave off the fact that houses have gotten so much bigger. So if you look at, say, the price per square foot over the last, say, 50 years of the average American household, it's about the same. So it keeps up with inflation, which is nice, but you're fooling yourself if you think it's going to be a piggy bank or be some huge investment for you along the way. It's really going to pay off financially. They are an investment, probably the biggest one you'll ever make, and that's very true. But they're probably not going to be worth any more in big picture wise than they were the year before, because of inflation and houses are getting bigger and stuff like that. So you want to be careful of how much house you actually get. And this touches back to what I said earlier about needs versus wants. You want to make sure how much you need versus actually how much house you want, because a lot of people, when they get their belongings, oftentimes they're for them, but oftentimes they are for others to see them. And trying to keep up with the Joneses or show off for people or prove something to somebody else is always going to lead to disappointment, because there's always going to be somebody with more money, more success, nicer car, nicer house, all these things. So you can't compare yourself to others on that. Look for verification and completeness within. If you look for external verification and adulation, all it's going to do is lead to disappointment. So that's a pretty good half personal finance Q&A. A couple rants in there along the way. Please feel free to leave any comments with any questions, and I'll reply to every single one.